Unit 14, Drama, Julius Caesar, written by William Shakespeare. This is one of the greatest drama written by William Shakespeare. He has skillfully dramatized historical material from Roman history for his play. The chapter that you have is an extract from his famous play Julius Caesar. It has been set against a background Julius Caesar is all about a man's personal dilemma over his moral action. Julius Caesar, an able general and a conqueror, returned to Rome amidst immense popularity after defeating the sons of Pompey. The common people of Rome celebrate the victory and return of Julius Caesar. Mark Antony offers the crown to Julius Caesar, which is refused by him. Cassius, who is jealous of Caesar, feels he might become a dictator, so he instigates a conspiracy to murder Caesar. To make his action legitimate, he includes Brutus, who is a very honorable man and great friend of Caesar, in his plot to murder Caesar. Let's begin with the play. Act 2, Scene 2. This happens in Caesar's house. The play opens with Caesar, who is at his chambers. It is thundering and lightning. Caesar comments that both the earth and heavens are not at peace, as Calpurnia had thrice cried out in her sleep, "Help ho! They murdered Caesar!" Just then Calpurnia enters and says that Caesar will not get out of his house today. Caesar is very arrogant, and he is also adamant on going out, for he says that all things that are threatening have only looked at his back. The minute they would see his face, they would disappear. He dismisses her fears as foolish. In the next line, Calpurnia explains her dream to him. Calpurnia, who is very disturbed, tells Caesar that earlier she has never believed nor paid any heed to any superstitious things, yet that day she was finding them frightening. Besides, she has heard about somebody in the house witnessing most horrid thing. He had told them a lioness had given birth to her young ones in the street. The graves had opened and dead had come out of them. Fierce, fiery warriors. They fought in the clouds. And blood was all over the capital. The whole air was filled with the noise of war. Horses were heard neighing, and the groans of dying men could be heard. Also, ghosts were heard shrieking and squealing about it. Calpurnia finds all this happening very unusual and fears them. Caesar, who is a practical person, says that if destiny has determined someone's death, it cannot be avoided. Besides all the happening, why was all this happening for him only? So he said he would definitely go. He does not believe that a dream can predict any future. He does not believe that Calpurnia's dream can be true. Calpurnia reasons out here. She says that when men die, there is no disturbance, but when something unfavorable is going to happen to anyone, great, even the heavens are ruffled. Caesar, being brave and courageous, believes that cowards experiences the pangs of death many times, but the brave people die only once. Caesar finds it very strange that man fears death, that death comes to everyone and at the time it is destined to. No one can avoid it. Calpurnia feels that her husband's overconfidence was consuming his wisdom. Caesar gives in to Calpurnia's request and agrees to stay home. So that happens till this line, "I will stay at home." Now, Decius Brutus' interpretation of Calpurnia's dream. So So Decius Brutus enters the room and this conversation happens. Just then Decius Brutus enters, who is greatest flatterer and one of the conspirators. He had taken up the task of getting Caesar to the Senate house in case he decides against going there. He informs Caesar that he had come to fetch him. Caesar is happy to see him and tells him that he had come at a very appropriate time. He wants Decius to take his message to the Senate house that he would not be there that day. Decius Brutus very cunningly wants to know the reason so that he is not laughed at. Caesar says that his wife Calpurnia had a dream in which she saw Caesar's statue. It was like a fountain with hundreds of spouts, and Caesar's blood was flowing unceasingly from it. Many Romans dipped their hands in it with a smile. Calpurnia considered it as a bad omen and had requested Caesar to stay home. Decius Brutus, who was very clever in the art of sycophancy, says that Calpurnia's dream had been misinterpreted. In fact, he says it was a dream which predicted something good. The sight of Romans washing hands in Caesar's blood meant that the state would revitalize itself from him. Also, people would like something of his to keep as a memory and would consider it a great treasure. When dying, they would leave it as a prized inheritance of their successors. Furthermore, he informs that the Senate had decided to crown him. If he doesn't go, they might change their mind. Caesar falls into this trap and asks for his robe to go. As decided, the other conspirators, Publius, Brutus, Ligarius, Metellus, Casca, Trebonius, Cinna, all reach Caesar's house. Caesar invites them to have a wine with them, after which they would leave for the Senate together as friends. Brutus is disturbed here. He whispers aside that something what is seen is not the truth. He feels that poor Caesar does not know that we are going to kill him. His heart grieves when he thinks that being like a friend is not the same as being a friend. That is the end of Act 2, Scene 2. Proceeding towards the next act, Act 3, Scene 1. Here, it's all about Metellus Cimber's petition to Caesar that he rejects. Everyone reaches the Senate house. As the proceedings of the day start as planned, Trebonius takes away Antony. Caesar is approached by Metellus Cimber, who is flattering and humble manner, approaches Caesar with a request. Caesar is firm with him and says if Metellus Cimber was paying the salutation to request for his brother, then he should stop, as Caesar doesn't get affected by such flings and that he was rigid in his decision. He was requesting to change the order and rules that have existed into children's law, which can be changed according to one's whims and wishes. Further, Caesar tells Cimber that he was firm that his brother should remain banished, and if Cimber was flattering and requesting for brother's punishment, Caesar would spurn him like a dog. Next, what we see here is Cimber pompously declares that Caesar cannot do anything wrong until a satisfactory reason is given. Caesar constantly tells Cimber that his brother would remain banished. Brutus seconds Metellus Cimber's request, which surprises Caesar greatly. Just then, Cassius also approaches and requests him for freedom of Publius Simba. Caesar, who is firm in his decision. So guys, there is a printing mistake over here. Cassius is requesting Caesar. So Cassius, this particular name, should be changed to Caesar. Please make the correction here. So Caesar is responding Cassius. Caesar is firm in his decision, says that he has never requested anyone, so is not moved by pleading made to him, and that he is constant like a North Star, pole star, which is known for its fixed position and stability. And no one of the other stars possesses this quality. Earlier also, he was firm that Simba should be banished, and now he had resolved to be firm in his decision. The next scene is all about stabbing Caesar and Antony's expression of grief. Casca now takes this opportunity to strike Caesar, followed by other conspirators. The last to stab Caesar is Brutus. When Caesar sees Brutus, his dearest friend among the conspirators, he is very hurt at his betrayal and prefers to die. So these are the famous lines. Et tu, Brute, means you too, Brutus. The conspirators, Cinna and Cassius, think that they must go to the common pulpit and declare that they were now free from tyranny of Caesar. Antony, who had been taken away by Trebonius, re-enters. When he sees the mighty Caesar lying on the earth bleeding, he speaks to the dead Caesar, expressing that all his conquests had been reduced to the little piece of the ground which he was lying. Then he turns to the conspirators and says that he is unaware of their intention about who else has to be put to death, but if his name was in the list, they should kill him there and then, for he would find no other time so appropriate to die. He would prefer to be killed with the same dagger which was smeared with the noble blood of mighty Caesar. Even if he lived for 1,000 years, he would not find himself so willing to die as that moment, and at the same place as Caesar. He places himself in the hands of the people who were now masters of the time. Next section is all about Brutus's expression of affection for Antony and Antony's crafty plans. Brutus is moved by Antony's request and pacifies him by telling him not to plead for his death. Though their blood-smeared hands were making them seem cruel, yet their hearts were filled with pity, and this pity wagged for the Rome. This pity wag was for Rome. Further, Brutus explains to Antony that like fire is used to extinguish fire, similarly, the pity of Romans had driven out pity for Caesar from their hearts and made them do the deed. As for Mark Antony, their hearts were filled with the brotherly love to receive him in their arms. Cassius also assures Antony that when disturbing scenes are happening and then while they are distributing the new posts, his opinion would be given equal importance. Antony, who is very shrewd and crafty, says that he does not doubt their wisdom and asks all of them to give their hands one by one. He finds himself unable to say anything, for he feels presently his reputation was very unsteady and he would be considered as a coward or a flatterer. He then speaks to the dead Caesar and says that if Caesar's spirit sees him shaking hands with enemies, even in the presence of his dead body, it would grieve him even more than his death. Cassius wants to know about Antony's allegiance. Should they depend on him or proceed with their plans? Antony reassures him that he was with them and hopes that they would give him reasons that led him to believe that Caesar was dangerous. Next, Brutus, who is an honorable man, assures him that there were valid, that even if he was the real son of Caesar, he would have been satisfied. Next section is all about Antony getting a nod to speak at Caesar's funeral and Antony taking the revenge of Caesar's death. Antony expresses his satisfaction and requests them to permit him to bring Caesar's body to the pulpit. It is expected from a friend to speak at his funeral. Cassius is not in favor of Antony. So, he asks Brutus to have a word with him, and wants Brutus not to agree to the request of Antony. But Brutus disagrees to Cassius and tells him that Antony and Brutus would be speaking from the same pulpit, and he warns Antony that if you speak, you do not have to blame us. You will only speak after we have spoken. You will only speak after I have ended my speech. Antony agrees to that, and he desires nothing more. Though Cassius gives in, he is not very happy about it and fears something unfavorable will happen. Brutus then grants permission to Antony to take Caesar's body and warns him not to accuse them in his funeral speech. As I said, he would also speak wherever Brutus had spoken from the same pulpit. Brutus leaves. Antony then turns to the dead Caesar and asks for forgiveness from Caesar for being so mild with his murderers. Grieving, Antony calls Caesar the noble soul that has ever lived on earth. He curses the hand that he shed his blood. He vows over Caesar's wound, which seemed like dumb mouths begging him to seek revenge, that a curse would fall upon mankind, and that there would be a civil war all over Italy, and destruction would be a common sight. Caesar's spirit would be moving around with it, the Greek goddess of revenge. The earth would stink with foul deeds. There would be dead bodies all around, and none left to bury them. And then he leaves with Caesar's body. Act 3, Scene 2. The next section is all about Brutus addressing the mob and expressing the love for liberty. Brutus goes on to the pulpit and addresses the people. He asks them to believe what he was going to say, for he was an honorable man, and to judge with their wisdom. He tells them how he loved Caesar, who was his dearest friend. He had killed Caesar as he loved Rome more than Caesar. He tells them that he had killed his dearest friend Caesar as he had become very ambitious. He was sure none of them would like to be slaves. Further, he tells them that the reason of Caesar's death had been in the capital, and his glories had not been reduced, or his faults were not emphasized. So all of that happens in this stanza. He tells them wherever needed, his countrymen could take his life. The citizens accept his reason and wish honor for him. They wish to carry him home in a victorious manner. So as you can see, all the citizens are shouting his name and praising Brutus. But Brutus insists that none should leave with him, and if they honor him, they should stay and hear Antony, who was to speak in the funeral of Caesar, which he was doing with his permission. The citizens are convinced that Caesar was a tyrant, and it is good that had been killed and Rome has got rid of them. So that happens in this stanza, where Brutus asks everyone to stay back as Antony is going to speak. Going down, it's all about Antony's speech with the use of rhetorical skills, pathos, and satire. When Antony goes up to the pulpit, he is fully aware that public was in favor of the conspirators and against Caesar. So he starts speaking in a very tactful manner, telling the people that he had come here to bury Caesar and not to praise him for all the good that he did in life is buried with the bones, and only evil deeds are remembered. Further, he says that Brutus had just said that Caesar was ambitious. So if it was so, it was a great fault for which Caesar has paid gravely. He tells them that Brutus is a very honorable man, and he had come to speak in Caesar's funeral, as expected from a friend. He repeats what Brutus had said, that Caesar was ambitious, and Brutus can never be wrong, as he is an honorable man. Now, he reminds the people how Caesar used to bring captives to Rome, and the ransom money he got from them went into the state treasury. Coffers. Coffer is nothing but a box filled with money. Then he questions the audience, would an ambitious man do such thing? Wherever the poor wept, even Caesar wept with them, and an ambitious person should be more tough. But Brutus said Caesar was ambitious, and Brutus is an honorable man. He is to be believed. He reminds the people how Caesar had refused the crown thrice when it was offered to him at the feast of Lupercal by Mark Antony. If he had been ambitious, he wouldn't have refused it. Yet Brutus said that he was ambitious, and he was not there to disprove what was said by him. Mark Antony reminds of their love for Caesar, which definitely could not have been without reason. He wonders what was the cause that he was holding them back from mourning over Caesar's death. Could it be that men had lost their reasoning power? So all of that happens in these stanza. Then he paused, as he was unable to speak, as his heart was with the Caesar. His heart was with Caesar. So it is this line, and I must pause till it comes back to me. So his heart was with the dead body of Caesar. He is taking a pause while the other citizens are discussing something. During his silence, the citizens start contemplating on what Mark Antony said. They feel Caesar had been wrong, and worse may befall them. Antony, seeing that his words were having right effect, continues with his speech, that how till yesterday Caesar's word was law, and now the same man was dead with no one paying him any respect. Very tactfully, he tells them how he was not there to arouse them to mutiny, for if he did, he would be wronging great like Brutus and Cassius. He would be wronging great men like Brutus and Cassius. he would prefer to wrong the dead Caesar or the people of Rome than wrong such great honorable men. Then he shows papers to people which he says was Caesar's will, which had been found in his study, and if they heard his will, which Antony had no intention of reading out, they would go and kiss the wounds of dead Caesar and dip their handkerchief in his blood, beg for his hair, etc., which when dying they would leave behind a rich legacy for their children. Is this line, bequeathing it as rich legacy unto their issue. Now, the public is aroused on hearing this and wishes to know what is written in the will. Antony, who is a very good orator, plays upon words and says that he should not read the will. Why he should not read the will? For the people were not stone-hearted, and when they would come to know that they were Caesar's hires, God knows what would happen. Antony amuses the curiosity of the people who now insist on knowing the will and considers the conspirators as murderers. Antony pretends to give in to their request, but first wishes to show them Caesar, who had made that will. He requests the people to make a ring around the body of Caesar. Antony artfully plays on the sentiments of the people, showing them the wounds of Caesar. So it happens in this line. Then make a ring about the corpse of Caesar, and let me show you him that made the will. Shall I descend? And will you give me leave? He points to each wound, telling which one was made by which conspirators and how, which he talks. Next, what happens is everybody is standing around Caesar, and then Antony starts. He tells people that if you have any tears left, then you should shed them now. You remember the cloak that Caesar used in the war with Nervi tribes, and he tactfully shows each wound made by each conspirators to provoke people. Now, he asks people to judge the conspirators. He asks people to think about what Caesar had done for them, and then think about the conspirators that killed him so mercilessly. He tells that this act was unkindest cut of all. Next, he tells everyone by showing Caesar's cloths of how mercilessly Caesar was killed, how the blood spewed through his cloths because of all his words which he had chosen very tactfully. All the citizens, they change their mind. There is a paradigm shift in their thinking, and they start praising Caesar. They say that it was the worst day of the history of Rome. They call the conspirators as traitors. The people want to take revenge. Antony asks them to stay back. Antony says, do not be panicked. He says he's not an orator, but Brutus is. And then he says that Caesar's wound looked like poor dumb mouths, as I discussed, who were begging for revenge. In every wound of Caesar that should move the stones of Rome to rise in mutiny. So everybody is now provoked and they want to take a revenge. As you can see, the third citizen saying, away then, come seek the conspirators. Now, He asks everyone, "Do you know what Caesar left behind for you all?" The citizens are more curious. He says that Caesar wanted to give 75 silver coins after his death, and he also wanted to leave his gardens, his place of stay, everything that he has to you all. But now he is dead. This was his will. How is he ambitious when he is doing so much for you? So that happens in this line. Moreover, he had left you with all his walks, his private arbors, new planted orchards on the side of the Tiber. He had left them to you. And to you hires forever common pleasure to walk abroad and recreate. So all the citizens, they go crazy. Some of the citizens, they burn things. Some of the citizens, they pull down the benches. And few others, they are so mad that they want to destroy anything that come in their way. And Antony thinks that now let it work, mischief thou art afoot. This line is deep. Why is this deep? Because Antony thinks that I have done my part. Now let all the mischiefs set into action. Let all the mischiefs play their part. Let the mischief put its foot forward, and I'm going to see what happens. So this is all about the play. Now what happens later on is Julius Caesar's nephew, Octavius, and Antony, they make up one team. Brutus and Cassius make up another team. There is a war between them at Philippi, and Brutus and Cassius are defeated, after which they commit suicide. I hope you liked my explanation. If you did, do subscribe so that you are updated with the latest videos of your syllabus. And if you like my explanation, do share it with your friends. Do not learn alone. The more you share, the more you learn. Thanks for watching and have a great day.